everyone, to another episode of Books of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. O.C. Pringle. Welcome to the Books of the Month, where our guest today is Dr. Levente Batizy. He is the author of The Biggest Hole in the Iron Curtain. Dr. Batizy, who is the fifth oldest of 14 children, at the age of 10, he was torn from his birth mother and grandmother to escape during the Hungarian Communist Revolution. And today he is a doctor in the United States of America. Welcome, Dr. Batizy.
Thank you very much. I am really enjoying being here, and thank you for taking time to allow me to talk about our book.
You have an amazing book. Amazing book.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about you yourself. You're a doctor now.
Yes.
Tell us about you and your family.
So I'm an ER physician, work in Denver, Colorado. I have two kids, grown kids. Actually, my daughter also became an ER physician and works for the VA hospital in Denver. My son is a computer science engineer, lives in Parker, Colorado. Mm-hmm. I have 5 grandkids.
Okay.
And I'm 73 years old, but still actively working.
Still actively working.
Yes, yes.
And you're married, because I saw a picture
Yes.
of this beautiful girl in your book.
Yes.
Your wife's name?
My wife's name is Patricia, and we
Patricia.
just celebrated our 50th anniversary.
50 years. Awesome.
Yes, it was awesome.
Awesome. So you originated out of Hungary.
Yes,
And again, as I stated earlier, you were torn from your birth mother and grandmother to escape.
Yes.
Tell us about that experience.
so, in 1956, October 23rd, a revolution broke out, and I happened to live at the time downtown Budapest, so we got pulled into, as the demonstration started, that initially was peaceful, but then turned violent during that night. My father was looking for me, and at the radio station where the demonstration ended up in the middle of the night, the communist government, the secret police opened fire on the peaceful demonstrators, and my father, being a physician at the time, set up a first aid camp and took care of the wounded. And then he ended up joining the revolutionary movement and became actively engaged in the district that we lived in, which was right across the parliament. Because of that, when the revolution eventually failed, and they actually had about 5 days where it looked like the Russian troops pulled out of Hungary, and they were going to allow the Hungarian people to govern themselves. But then Khrushchev at the time, who was a prime minister of Russia, decided to reinvade Budapest. 5,000 tanks rolled in the middle of the night. And because my father was so heavily involved in the revolution, he decided to try to escape to Austria to get help from the West. And unfortunately for Hungary, the Suez crisis was evolving at the same time. And so the world focus was more on the Suez Canal, which was more geopolitically important than picking a fight with the Russians, 10 years after World War II. So my dad was actually, he commandeered an ambulance. Three of them drove toward the Austrian border, and they were stopped at gunpoint at the border. My father, who had his white doctor's coat on and he had his doctor's bag with him, decided a split second they were stopped near a river, and he dove into the river, took his coat off, emptied his papers so it looked like, and the gunfire broke out and it looked like he died. We actually got word from the other 2 people who were captured that, my father had deceased, because they were all convinced, that nobody would survive that. But he managed to swim underwater and end up going to Vienna. And then he had a change of heart. He couldn't get help for the revolution, but he decided he wanted to come back for the family. So he defected back into Budapest And then he began a big plan of trying to escape with his 12 kids. We had 12 kids at the time. Two of my siblings were born here in the United States. So after much struggling with my mom, who did not want the kids to go, all the kids to go, so my mom, my dad's first marriage had 6 kids, and then the other kids for my stepmother.
Okay.
And so eventually, as the borders were closing, the escape opportunity was narrowing down as the revolution had failed. The borders were becoming much harder to cross. There were fewer people willing to help escape. We ended up deciding this is the moment. My father came to pick us up, and we ended up going. So in Hungary at the time, very few people had cars. Mostly you took the train, streetcars, or bus. So we took the streetcar to the bus terminal, and then we took, not the bus terminal, but rather the railroad station.
Okay.
We took the railroad to the nearest town in Austria, or at the Austrian border. And we were actually caught at the border right before we crossed. It was very difficult with 11 kids at the time. So the compromise was that my oldest sister would stay back with my mom and my grandma. The rest of the kids go with my father and my stepmother. And so we got caught at the border. And this is the heartwarming part. You know, they would not let us leave the detention center, and we were supposed to stay there till they took us back to face retribution in Budapest. Christmas Eve, the border guards were not watching. And my father said, we're going.
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
No, this is an awesome story.
So
this is a Christmas
if you
story,
hear-
man.
So if you could imagine a 10-year-old boy who arrives in Vienna. We had just left war-torn Hungary. Beautiful.
I can only imagine.
The sounds of Christmas, the lights. And we arrive there. We get taken to a refugee camp in Vienna. And then eventually we get a sponsor, a combination between the International Rescue Committee and a church in the United States sponsored us to come here.
Wow. That is
So-
awesome.
and then we
from
started,
the
yeah.
sponsor, so you're in Vienna, and then your next stop was?
Well, we went to Munich, West Germany, where we stayed in a U.S. Army barrack. And then from there, we flew to New York, and then eventually ended up in Camp Kilmer, which is in New Jersey.
In New Jersey.
Yeah, it was a decommissioned World War II Army barracks that they resurrected for the influx of the refugees. And we stayed there till my father was able to get a promise to start brand new. As a physician, when you come to this country, you have to start brand new as an intern, then do a residency, even though he had practiced in Hungary for many years.
But he did it.
He did it.
And you're now a doctor yourself.
Yes, yes.
That is absolutely amazing. What an amazing story.
Yeah.
It's so appropriate for this
Yeah.
time of year.
Absolutely.
I congratulate you on your successes, and your father was bold enough.
Yeah.
Wow, to jump in the water and all, that's just outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great story. Where can we find your book?
You can find it on Amazon.
Okay.
The biggest hole in the iron story, the Batizy story. If they just remember the Batizy story, Google it and you can find it.
I can see this becoming a movie one day.
Well, I think that the story puts the Von Trapp family to shame.
I believe, yes.
Yes.
I must agree with you on that. And listen, the Iron Curtain, I love the way this looks
Yes.
on the front cover
Yes.
of your book.
Thank you.
Is that Hungary, what we're looking at?
Yes,
right here?
you're looking at Budapest, the parliament, and then the flag with the hole out of it. so the hole symbolizes where the hammer and sickle, which the communist era post-World War II put in as part of the Soviet Empire, was torn out during the revolution.
What an amazing story. Do you have a website?
Yeah, I do have a website. It's the Batizy store.
I want you to go there and purchase the book. How much is the book?
It's 14, but you can probably get it cheaper if you get the reader version. You know, it's only $4.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've heard it right here on Books of the Month from Dr. Levente Batizy. A phenomenal story. Listen, it is so inspirational. And
Yes.
it's just, it lets us know what America is supposed to
Absolutely.
be like.
Yes.
What it's supposed
To
to
be able to worship and take care of, you know, and have a dream that you can fulfill with hard work.
with hard
Absolutely.
work. And America was welcoming. Remember that.
Yes.
Listen, Dr. Batizy, thank
Yes.
you for joining us. And listen, those of you out there that's watching, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with our next guest. Go purchase this book, The Biggest Hole in the Iron Curtain. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Great story. Great story. Great story.